So, welcome everybody to the fourth edition of the IoT Burstcast. Here with us is Rob Tiffany, head of IoT Strategy at Ericsson, and he's going to tell all about the mother of IoT proposition about this bold statement.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here. Value props, why people want to do something. Obviously we're talking about business primarily here. We have all, I think, struggled for a long time doing this IoT thing for so many years. And I think too many people have focused too much on technology or it being a big science experiment. We deal with lots of fragmentation and problems. And sometimes we scratch our head because we all know all these great use cases and we're wondering, why aren't they doing it? It's so obvious, and it's important to cut through what we think is important and just remember what business thinks is important. It's really very succinct. It really cuts through all the stuff, It's like, will this technology make me more money in my business? Or will it take cost out of my business? Will it save me money? Which is super, super important right now to all of us to think about. With this COVID issue that we've had around the world, the side effect among the virus itself has been an economic collapse. And so businesses are all heading down right now. And so when you think about talking to a business person, decision maker about IoT or something, everything you say to them might be blah, 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 save me lots of money. Because my money...
It's just bottom line.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, that's really cool. I'm glad you wasted an hour of my time talking about your fun IoT science project. Unless you're going to take millions and millions or tens of millions of dollars out of my business costs, I'm probably not interested in talking to you right now because we are all in a free fall right now. And I am.
It can be a good distraction from the real problems in the world. Is that talking to an innovation story, but then the real world will hit you once you get out of this nice innovation chat. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, the real world keeps coming back and slapping us in the face over and over again. When things are really good, when the economy's great and all the companies have lots of money, we have the luxury to have innovation and have different teams that are doing nothing but working on figuring out what's next. And that's really cool and fun. But in times like these, and we've experienced a few of these, depending on how old you are, you've been through different recessions or big scenarios. Or gosh, I happen to grow up in Texas, actually, in Houston, which is where all the oil companies are. And I've seen just shocks to the system where the price of oil is so low, like it's happened recently, that the whole town is about to turn into a ghost town. But in those moments, people can only think about, I need to make more money. I need to pull a lot of cost out of my business. And so think about when we, back in our innovation mindset, or why we propose IoT to help businesses, a lot of times, on the making more money, we talk about new business models and things like that you can use. Saving money, it's about, can I do more with what I have? Right now, it could be, I need to maybe do the same with less. One of the negative side effects of a collapsing economy like we're watching right now is lots of employees are being laid off. They're being let go, either permanently or temporarily. I can't speak for, the Netherlands, but in the US, it's pretty bad. And so business leaders still need to have their company functioning. They want the company to survive. They may have had to let go of lots of employees, but all those tasks that are performed by those employees still need to be done in many cases. And so they're curious, can IoT help me do that? And I know sometimes that sounds kind of evil when you think about, oh, I'm going to use machines and intelligence to replace what a person is doing. And I totally get that. But right now, that's exactly what we're hearing from folks.
Then it's also good. Maybe it's a bit of let's say nonsense, just to put it nicely, filter, is that what you, I mean, what you're doing with this meme is just saying, okay, let's bring it down to the core and let's remove all the bells and whistles that we put on make this great IoT show, and just go to the core of it. And we experienced that as well. Is that some use cases are where we now grow. For instance, is simple temperature measurements. That is already around for ages, but we're able now to do it at a 99.9% reliability with a very low maintenance cost in a distributed setting across a lot of retail and food chains in the US. And it surprised me that on one hand, like, you're trying to show all the innovation, and on the other hand, it's just doing one thing very simple, very well. And we could use more of that, because otherwise we're just always in this rat race of saying, oh no, this is better innovation, this is a better innovation, and then you're comparing like badass versus badass, right? So maybe this crisis is good just to because this is literally what's happening. We're throwing out badass into the market.
Yeah. I think it's a wake-up call for a lot of leaders in innovation and startups and doing IoT and other things and analytics to go back to what's the simple thing, what's working, what's not working. One of the things I've done during this COVID time is try to collect my thoughts, just looking around, not related to IoT necessarily, but just in general, about what are the big themes that we are seeing during this pandemic. I think of words come to mind. One of them is just the word remote. Everybody is remote. We're all isolated. Things like word digital, connected, economics, safety. There's things that a lot of people all of a sudden have risen to the top. And so, the fact that like we're doing this webcast right now, obviously lots of people are doing this overnight, and I know it seems really obvious, but it's important to always look around and say what's winning and what's losing. And so connectedness, these digital platforms that are allowing us to do video conferencing over, the internet, over wireless communications, the software, and you can really start to narrow down, instead of people remotely instead of them going to a movie theater, they're making remote things local, and they're watching Netflix and stuff all the time. Instead of us going to the office, we're taking a remote office and making it local with web conferences like Zoom and Teams and Skype and so many others. Grocery stores, instead of going to a remote grocery store, some people are having them delivered to you locally. Uber Eats, DoorDash, there's so many, right? All over in different ones, different countries. There's lots of themes. Some things, and a lot of these things have already been around for a while, but they've really taken off now in this world. Telemedicine. I would normally do a remote visit to a doctor, but now I might be doing telemedicine like we are now, where a doctor's doing a diagnostic, that way. So if you think about, let's understand the themes of what's working right now. Digital technologies going over connections. The one great thing is this giant internet experiment that started a long time ago. It's working. The internet is holding up.
It didn't break, right? So
It didn't
I think
break.
in Europe they asked to turn off 4K on Netflix, but I think in the end it didn't turn out to be necessary. But I think this is one of the. I'm totally amazed it didn't break down. And what we see actually, what I see in my area is actually more the traditional circuit switch telephony is actually breaking down first before the data 4G. Like I now always start calling on 4G cellular data instead of doing the circuit switch. But the circuit switch is all legacy, right? So these are all really hard to scale systems. Yeah, the IP system is easy to scale. Yeah. So
amazing. So these are the things that are working. And so when you take all these concepts of what people are doing, I'm staying remote, I'm using digital technologies over, and it's a layered cake, actually. It's electricity, and then it's fiber optic cables, and then things are popping up all over every city, and it's cellular towers, could be a Wi-Fi access point, all kinds of things, in a coffee shop. But they're all connected to that other hidden infrastructure that's under all the cities and across all the land and under the oceans. And so it's all holding together. And so, we think about IoT. So much of that is taking a remote activity and making it local using digital technologies over some kind of connectivity, right? And so the simplest IoT type things are just monitoring an asset, a machine, a thing, whatever it is. Normally I would go in a factory and go visit a machine or look at a gauge and see what the pressure is on a gauge, or see what the temperature is, kind of like what you were talking about earlier. And now we're going to just use these same concepts. I might need to do it remotely. I might need to do it remotely because of safety. I don't want all those people to be in there. I want to do it to cut costs. If all of a sudden I had to lay off lots of employees who would normally walk around a power plant and monitor all these systems, but I still need to do the job. And so IoT is the answer for doing that job. Whether it's a sensor telling me that temperature, or if it's a camera looking at a gauge and saying, oh, okay, that's what the pressure is, or whatever it happens to be. Lights out smart factories like Elon Musk has with the Gigafactory. Customers want to get to that. But I think it's becoming more important than ever. You've heard a lot of leaders talk about, you've probably heard the digital transformation has sped up by a few years or 10 years or whatever.
No, I believe it as well. And I think we previously discussed about the OEM and aftermarket, and specifically what you're saying. I think also in your field with 5G, that AR is like you get this augmented additional layer, and then the next version of the product is going to be the embedded. And and I think the same you see with, we have a lot of the sensors in retail fridges, so that they are working in food change. So they put them in, and then the total bill of material, including installation cost, is around $200, right? The whole total cost of ownership, basically. But an embedded version is like 50 times cheaper. So I think also we could argue the hypothesis of having this aftermarket first phase going in and speeding up. Then if you see that as normal, like a retrofitting or an augmentation, then buy a fridge. I said, why isn't there a connected temperature sensor in my fridge? So I truly think that, and I think what's interesting, and I think we're also together on a panel with a partner from McKinsey, and what I think was very interesting on their findings that they said, on the one hand, we see it's never been more clear to enterprises what the value of IoT is, and this was pre-COVID-19 research, but it also has never been. It also has the technology implementation choices and the systems integration is still a challenge, and that is actually quite hopeful, and it connects to this as well. So going back to your meme is and I wanna go full circle before we finish, is that I think it's a really good reminder of of everybody in the industry, because the business IT alignment, or the gap between actually enterprises in their boardrooms understanding the value of IoT, but a bunch of nerds like us maybe like trying to speak the same language.
You might need to put your suit on and tie and
Yeah.
go. Gosh, when I think about all these things, and you're right, we had a great discussion on a panel. You talk about retrofitting. It was really clear the time I spent at Hitachi building Lumada. It was really clear to all of us, that this industrial part of IoT that people talk about was going to be a multi-decade journey. And it wasn't going to happen overnight. And it goes back to what you're saying. It became apparent to us that we'll spend decades with old machines, and that will be the normal way of doing things. And then over time, in the background, like you said, new machines will be created with all that technology embedded inside. Because when you walked into a factory or a power plant or whatever, and you talked to the owners there, and we saw lots of new IoT companies, hundreds of them pop up. And I'm sure they all walked into a factory and said, yes, I need you to tear out all these machines and with the new embedded technology. And those guys probably looked at him and just said, get out of my office. That's ridiculous. I spent $20 million buying this machine that makes other machines, and I'm never going to do that ever. Because in the end, business is about money. And people can't lose sight of that. Only reason we're having a business is to make money. There's no other reason. Unless you're doing a charity or something altruistic and you're trying to help society. But corporations typically are designed to make money, and we employ people to help us make money. And so we're going to employ IoT if we can to help us make money or take cost out, because the in-between is margin, right? And so how do I increase my margins on my product? So if we remember in the early days when IoT was really exciting, and you'd go to CES in Las Vegas and you'd see thousands of startups with the IoT coffee maker and the IoT toaster and all that stuff. And it was the most expensive toaster you've ever seen in your life. And they said, but look how cool it is. It's connected, and your iPhone's going to tell you that the toast is ready. And the reality is customers are not willing to pay that extra cost. And so it became clear to me that the cost, and again, this is my just a guess, but in my mind, I was like, the cost of the IoT thing that goes into a product needs to be less than 1% of the cost of the total product. Or there's just, I think when people get excited about technology and innovation, they forget about economics, unfortunately. They get caught up in the moment. And that's fun. It's exciting. But in the end, economics plays a bigger role than anything. If you don't have the cash, you don't get to play.
Yeah, I think that's good to finalize this IoT Burstcast with that conclusion. So, they can find you on LinkedIn. I put in links below, put in links to your blogs. And I want to thank you very much for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's been great talking to you.